declaration of interest. The forms have been uploaded. Members, if you can kindly remember to complete the forms and submit them to Mr. Eliezer Dlamini, unless there is any interest to be declared by members verbally or by exception for this meeting. By show of hands, if there are any members that would like to make a verbal declaration. If none, then members, I'm going straight to item number 5. Item number 5 is the preliminary assessment of the maximum price application submitted by Evras, Highveld Steel, and Vanadium Pty Ltd. The person who must introduce the submission, please highlight the key issues of this application and areas also that you would like to emphasize for the members in making the decision easier for them.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take the submission as read. Apologies, beforehand, I've got a bit of a flu, so my voice, I hope I'm audible. The Everest's application is for a period of 1st July to end of June 2024. And the NERSA received a complete application on the 27th of July. And the application is made up of the cost plus methodology. What Everest is applying for is per table 3, and it must also be noted that Everest is also applying for a reseller's maximum price, which is per the following table. In NERSA's assessment of the maximum price, what is the major differences between NERSA's calculations and Everest's calculations were more on the trading costs element, which obviously cascaded to the profit component. The quantum of the difference is a 0.2%. Otherwise, everything else there was consensus in the application. So we recommend as per number 14. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, members. The submission is before us. Any comments, input, guidance from the members? By show of hands, members. Advocate Stole, followed by Mr. Mkhize.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks to the presenter. Chair, I think mine is just a point of clarity under paragraph 411, and I think it's on page 5. We are indicating that Everest did not submit its gas supply agreement, and it's not clear if then the usage of the invoices that we said we have used to do the preliminary assessment is sufficient or not. And I think that sentence under 411, it's incomplete. We may need to really complete it, because we're saying, however, Everest has been requested to submit the gas supply agreement with its suppliers for it to assess the cost of acquisition of the gas molecule. And then it ends there. I think we needed to inform whether it has been received or not. Chair, that's the first one. And I think the second one, it's on P13, page 13, paragraph 6.3. I've noted that the numbering, I'm just trying to get to page 13. I've made some notes there. Yes, the numbering in terms of the questions that we would want to send out to stakeholders seems to be not in a sequence, unless, Chair, there is a reason. And some of the questions are just, the numbering are repeated. If that can be corrected. But if I'm wrong, Chair, then the team will have to explain why the sequencing is not in a proper manner for me to really understand the sequencing of the questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Advocate Stole. Mr. Mkhize.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just a small issue, two issues actually. On page 21, the question there is, in calculating the reseller price, is it fair to use a standardized 5% for all licenses? Just want to understand, do we intend to then get a response that talks to standardizing on a different percentage, or that we proceed with a 5% but not for all licenses? Because I thought maybe if we have a question that says what percentage should be used and why, maybe it would give more freedom for people to consider alternatives. And then on page 28, the question there, where the request to comment on NERSA opting to use 5 instead of 6 companies as proxy in the beta determination. I just got a bit confused there, because I thought that the work on deciding on what kind of determination to use, of what number of proxies and kind of proxies to use in the beta determination, it's a separate process that we embark upon, and not having it piecemeal reopening in this manner. If you may just assist me there, because most of the time we are told there is this separate process in terms of determining proxies, not in this manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. May colleagues respond to the questions from Advocate Stolle and Mr. Mkhize.
Thank you, Chair. When it comes to the gas supply agreements, the actual, what we have heard is that from the licensee side is that there was some, because of their status, they are at business rescue. They had to, there's a process for them to undertake for us to receive the gas supply agreements. However, they had supplied it in the past. It was just a confirmation from us that everything is still the same. From a numbering perspective, we will amend, the document is with currently with the language editor, so that numbering will be sorted. I apologize for that. Regarding the reseller discount, yes, 5% is the minimum. What you'd notice is that the reseller, the licensee does have discounts per customer as per section 22 that they have accompanied with the application. And then with regards to...
No, the issue here is about, Mr. Mkhize can see what you are asking, but I think the manner of asking it and the kind of information you will expect, I think that is what he's raising here. So the suggestion is that maybe rephrase the question, and he tried to guide how you can rephrase the question. So you just need to rephrase that question. Because yes, you're talking about the minimum 5%, but why are you putting it there if that is already in the methodology? What do you want stakeholders to say about it? So the essence of his guidance is that maybe rephrase that question and ask for it differently to get what will be useful and valuable for our purpose.
Yes, Chair. I will take that note. That was the next question I was about to answer, but thank you, Chair. Yes, I think those are all the questions, Chair. Thank you.
No, there's a one on the beta calculation, the proxies there. What is the purpose of asking about the proxies? Because the issue of the proxies will be in the methodology. So if you can clarify the reason why there's a question relating to beta calculation.
We will rephrase, we'll retract that question, Chair. The question there was just more, it was also regarding the actual reseller question. So I think in the manner that it was constructed. That's where it brought confusion. But we will retrace the question. Thank you, Chair.
All right, Ms. Makot.
Thank you, Chairperson. I want to assist on the question regarding the beta determination proxies. Why are we putting that question there? The reason why we're putting that question there is because one of the proxy companies, WGL, is now delisted, such that we had to use 5 instead of 6. So what we are doing is that we are asking stakeholders to provide an input on that. Although in terms of our process, there is a separate process which we undertake in trying to replace that particular companies. But in this discussion document, our view was that we couldn't leave it like that, knowing very well that one of the companies delisted. So we had to put a question for stakeholders to respond to that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, but you must phrase it properly, and there's a separate process, so it can't be done. Why don't you do the 5 or the remaining 4, whatever number is there, instead of sneaking in this? You just have to use the proxies that are there. They're still sufficient. If there are now 4 remaining, so you use the 4 that is remaining, and then phrase a question around the 4. And indicate to say that there is this company has delisted. We had so many of them. Will there be any effect if we just use the 4 that is there, and then we'll undertake a process later? We got that, Ms. Makot?
Yes, Chair. Thank you so much for that guidance.
Yes, the question by Ms. Advocate Sutolo was not adequately answered because she asked whether then we are satisfied in the verification of the cost by using the invoices only. So that part was not touched on. The supply agreement would not have been finalized anyway, and it's on an annual basis. So if you can respond that the other information that you had to verify the cost of gas was sufficient.
Thank you, Chairperson. In terms of the gas supply agreements, we do require it because that's what the methodology requires us to have. For now, we have asked the licensees to provide that with the invoice, and we have preliminarily accepted the cost of gas on those bases. However, we still need the licensee to supply us with the gas supply agreement as per the requirements of the methodology.
Okay. All right. The point that I was making is that in any event, the supply agreements would not have been changed so quickly. This new methodology was approved in January, and stakeholders got the copies sometime in February. So the negotiations between the suppliers and these traders have not been finalized. So what you may actually get is the term sheet of the price, not necessarily the agreement. So the agreements would not be helpful. Yes, you will get them, but they will not be helpful in terms of changing the price terms in the agreement. Perhaps the term sheet where they would have negotiated quickly on an expedited basis with their suppliers. So you may just need to get those things. That's the point that I'm making, because some of them, they have indicated that they were still waiting for the bigger suppliers to indicate what the cost is going to be. So that's what you need to just reflect as well.
All right. Thank you, Chairperson.
All right. Thank you very much. Members, I think all of the questions have been clarified, and some questions will be rephrased to take care of the concerns raised by the members. With that, members, I would like to take you to page 8. It's the bottom number 8. Paragraph 14 of the covering submission. The PGS is requested to note the discussion document on EVRA's application for maximum price for the period starting 1st July 2023 until 30 June 2024. And that is attached here, that document, as Annexure A. And the second decision required is to approve the publication of this discussion document for public comment with the confidential information being withheld. And again, it is attached here as Annexure A, that information. Members, by show of hands, subject to the correction of the questions that were pointed out by the members. By show of hands, members. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Advocate Stole, Ms. Mpungose, Mr. Gumede, Mr. Bokula. Thank you so much. I also support. We're moving on to item number 6, members, which is also the preliminary assessment of the maximum price application submitted by SLCNG Pty Ltd for the period July 2023 until June 2024. Please take the matter as read and emphasize the key aspects of this application and take the members through the tables to clarify.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to members and Chairperson. This is an application for SLCNG for maximum price for the period 1 July 2023 to 30 June 2024. SLG is applying for a maximum price of 315.37. The maximum, the calculation, table 1 shows the cost of gas, the trading margin, and all the calculations and trading cost and the profit component. We have analyzed the application as shown in table 4, following our methodology and our processes. We've analyzed and done the prudency assessment following the methodology. The comparison is on table 4. We've accepted all the costs that SLCNG is applying for, because when you pending the audited financial statements, and then when the actuals and the forecasts are done, they would apply for a clawback as they have done in this application. We are requesting the members to note the preliminary assessment and approve the publication of the discussion document. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Kenu. Members, any questions, guidance, issues of clarity? By show of hands, members, if you have any. Please go ahead, Mr. Mkhize.
Thanks, Chairperson. Again, I'm just, I would request the team to say maybe at a technical level, there needs to be ongoing engagement of stakeholders, especially on pricing issues, because people are here for the bottom line, and therefore it is important that there be engagement, particularly around that on an ongoing basis. But some of the questions that are being posed, sometimes they tend to be more general and not necessarily dealing with the application at hand per se. For example, if we're looking at the issue of competition in the question on page 17, the study has been done in this regard, and there is a mandate, which then says in the interim there is a mandate. If the questions are more, if we're to ask maybe a forward-looking question to say maybe Gwanda Gas's participation is, how is it assisting in terms of competition, and what should be done to enhance that? I think something that is pertinent to the applicant. So I just come with maybe a specific question in this regard, but something moving towards that. I think the same also applies if one look at the stakeholder questions. How does the maximum price influence investment and consumption decision related to natural gas? maybe to say in your opinion, what should be considered in terms of the maximum price to improve investment and consumption decision, or does the maximum price as it stands assist in terms of investment and improving consumption decisions? I think on the second one, number 4, which is stakeholders are requested on the profit component on trading, whether there is double counting, maybe just to rephrase and say stakeholders are requested on the profit component on trading margin to suggest whether to indicate whether. I think there's just a grammatical thing there. That's what the question is clear. Yeah, to indicate whether. I think there is there are 2 words there missing, which are to indicate whether. Just to as maybe a parting shot to re-emphasize that questions are there to elicit certain inputs, and therefore I think the team just work on the questions, please, because at the end of the day, it shouldn't look like this is just ticking the box, and we might get this out there and not get comments or responses, mainly because of how we have posed our questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. That is the input, colleagues. You must rephrase those questions, and Mr. Mkhize also assisted how you may rephrase the questions. So it's important that you rephrase those questions and just put them in a way that will elicit some value for purposes of looking at this proposed maximum price, the way that it will facilitate investment, the way that it will ensure that this company recovers the cost, and also whether the level at which the price is will actually ensure competitiveness, which is what we are seeking to achieve with approval of prices. If you can do that, please. All right, members, with that input from Mr. Mkhize, which the team will effect before this document gets published, are members happy to then note the discussion document and also then approve the publication of this consultation document for public comments by stakeholders with the confidential information being withheld as shown in Annex A? Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. By show of hands, members. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Mr. Bukula. Thank you, Ms. Mbungosa. Thank you, Mr. Gumede. Thank you, Advocate Sithole. Thank you, members. I also support. We then move on to item number 7, which is the preliminary assessment of the application for maximum price. This time it comes from SLG Pty Ltd for the period 1st July 2023 until June 2024. Please take the matter as read and anticipate the areas where members had posed questions, and please get straight to those areas as well to clarify.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Chairperson. This application is from SLG. SLG is applying for a maximum price of 137.35 cents for the period 1 July 2024 to 2023 to 30 June 2024, as shown in Table 1, using the currently approved methodology, cost plus methodology. Similarly, on this one, we have assessed the application using our methodology and our practices in terms of prudency assessment. The assessment is shown in Table 5. Even this one, because in terms of our practices, we accept. In fact, we accept and we query if then they in terms of they comply with the adequacy with our assessment. Then we accept until they submit the audited financial statements, and then in the next application they would then do a clawback. The difference between our assessment was 2%, which is an acceptable range that NESA approves the application. We would request the members to note the preliminary assessment and approve the publication of the discussion document. The questions that were raised by Mr. Mkhize will be applicable in this application as well. When we rephrase the question, we'll rephrase the questions in this application as well. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Genu. Members, any questions from your side? Any input? Any further guidance on this application by show of hand? Advocate Stole?
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks to the presenter. Chair, I do not seem to have table 5 in the submission. Maybe I'm on the wrong one, which is 7. I see table 4 in the submission. And if I'm correct with table 4, page 6, there is a calculation there that I think maybe it may be missing, unless if my calculation is wrong. The part of the profit component, Chair, I thought there's a difference there. It's not indicated unless there's a reason why it's not considered. And if I'm correct, Chairperson, then it would mean that paragraph 4.12 may have to be amended, especially the second sentence that starts with the differences are up until before the word however. Chair, I just need clarity on that particular table. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate Stole. Mr. Mkhize?
Thanks, Chairperson, and thanks for the presenter. I appreciate that the questions asked before will be incorporated. Just with regard to 8.10, paragraph 8.10, the intangible assets, which are those? Because the examples that I'm getting here pertain to tangible ones. If it is not confidential, but if it is, then maybe we can discuss it outside. But I think if you say, if this is a general statement, I'm fine with it. But if it is indeed just applicable here, it would be good to indicate what the other examples of tangible assets, of intangible assets are, because most of the time they also tend to be controversial. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mkhize. Ms. Makoda and Mr. Genu, can you please respond to the questions and provide clarification? Please go ahead, Ms. Makoda.
Thank you, Chairperson. Perhaps we have a different documents, but on the cover submission, table 4 is provided on table 6 is provided on page 6. Sorry, table 4 is provided on page 6, and on the annexure, which is discussion document, table 4 is provided on page 14. So it could be that we have different documents, but the one on the link, those are the page numbers. In terms of the other question from Mr.
Ms. Makoda, may you please clarify that question, because there were issues in that question apart from just the table itself. Yes, she mentioned that table 5, she can't see table 5 referred to. She has table 4. Then there are other questions that she asked. Advocate Stoller?
If I may assist, it's table 4 in the submission cover. Table 4 in the submission cover. Thanks, Chair, on page 6 thereof.
Yes, you are correct. On page 6, yes, it's table 4.
All right, thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I didn't get the specific question. Perhaps Ms. Sigenu got it. She can respond to it.
Okay, answer other questions.
Oh, sorry.
Ms. Sigenu, please go ahead. The questions from Advocate Stole.
Okay, on table 4, Advocate Stole, we have provided the calculation of the maximum price. which talks to the cost of gas, trading cost, and all of the amount is 137, where we're showing the difference of 1% between our calculation and the applicant's calculation. And then paragraph 4.12 talks to the table. If, for example, that's why we are explaining the difference, and we're saying it's less than the 10%, the threshold which NESA uses to apply. I'm not sure if I've captured the question correctly. And then,
with your permission, maybe on that one, just to assist so that we close on this one. My question was that when you look at the profit component amounts in our calculation and that of the applicant, I thought there would be a difference, unless if my calculations are wrong. And therefore, then I was saying, if I'm correct, that difference maybe would have to be indicated in the last column. And following from that, we would then have to change that sentence, second sentence under 4.12. But if I'm wrong, I think the team can say so that we can move on. So mine was just a clarity, just on the profit component only. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. The profit component, the difference is less than 0.01%, but we will, that is why we should zero. If I could, yes. But I would change and show that 1% that is shown there on there. That is why the difference is very insignificant. It did not even go to 1. It's less than 1%.
Yeah, but it does in that line. That's what Advocate Sithole is indicating. If you look at the figures, so if it doesn't matter what the difference is, just reflect that difference in the difference column. And then on paragraph 4.12, please delete the last part there, that in the past, NERSA, this and this, delete all of that. All of the other people don't do that in their things. Just if you can delete that also in the other ones. All right. I think you've clarified then the issue of that profit. Ms. Makoda, you wanted to finalize the others?
Chairperson, I didn't get the specific questions. If we may ask Ms. Sigeno to continue.
Okay. It is in terms of the intangible asset. It refers to their license, the software licenses, but I will indicate it in the paragraph that talks to the assets, tangible and intangible, and I will specify which are tangible and which are intangible assets. Thank you.
Are you covered, Mr. Mkhize? I think the issue of the intangible asset pertaining to this licensee, we looked at it in the past. I'm afraid not to reveal what exactly is that intangible asset, but it is the NERSA had a way of treating that intangible asset. It may not necessarily be the software itself, but it is sort of something else of the contracts and all of that. So it can be clarified perhaps outside of the meeting. Just for confidentiality, Mr. Mkhize.
I'm covered in that regard, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right, members, with that, then and also the changes in that table 4 to take care of the issue raised by Advocate Sithole. Subject to that, members, I would like to take you to paragraph 14. On the recommendations, the team is requesting the subcommittee to note the preliminary assessment of the application by SLG Pty Ltd for the maximum price for the period 1st July 2023 until 30 June 2024, and also for the committee to approve the publication of the consultation document for public comment and withhold confidential information as shown in Annexure A. By show of hands, members, if you are comfortable with those two decisions. Thank you, Mr. Pukula. Thank you, Advocate Sithole. And thank you, Mr. Mkhize, Mr. Gumede. Thank you, Ms. Mbongose. I also support. Thank you, members. We then move on to item number 8. Item number 8 is now on the monitoring of compliance. And the first report that we have on the monitoring of compliance is one that is submitted by SLCNG with regards to the previous approval of the maximum price, of which maximum price expired in June 2023. Ms. Magoda, please take the matter as read and emphasize key issues out of this submission.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, on the yearly basis, we are required to monitor the maximum price that were approved by NERSA to ensure that there is compliance with that decision, and also there's compliance with Section 21(1)(p) of the Gas Act and also Section 22 of the Gas Act. With regard to the SLCNG monitoring reports, we have asked them to provide us with information that will enable us to monitor compliance with those particular sections of the Gas Act. And they have provided that information. Chair, if you look at Table 1 of the cover submission, it provides the details of the maximum price that were approved by NERSA. And in terms of the maximum price that was approved for Gauteng and also for KZN for SLCNG, that maximum price was 217.88 Rand. And the analysis of the prices and volumes of the consumed, meaning then that the customers that consumed higher volumes were charged a lower price, and the customers that were consumed a lower volumes were then charged a higher price. And this information is provided in Table 2 of the submission. Chair, our monitoring results indicates that this particular licensee complied with Section 21(1)(p) and also Section 22 of the Gas Act. We are asking the committee to note the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Magoda. Members, any questions with regards to this analysis of the compliance by SLCNG? By show of hands, members, if you have any. If not, members, I would like to take you to the recommendations. The recommendations are on page 7, paragraph 14. It is recommended that the PGS, Pipe Gas Subcommittee, notes that SLCNG did comply with Section 21(1)(p) of the Gas Act by charging its customers actual prices that are below the approved maximum price for the period under review. And then the second decision is that the PGS should note that SLCNG complied with the provisions of Section 22 of the Gas Act, as it has not engaged in undue price discrimination when charged its customers. By show of hands, members, if you are happy to note the findings of the assessment. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Mr. Gumede. Thank you, Mr. Bugula. Thanks, Ms. Mbongose, and thanks, Advocate Sithole. I also support the recommendations. On item number 9, again, it is the monitoring of compliance now for SLG Pty Ltd. Please take the matter as read, Ms. Magoda.
Thank you, Chair. This submission is similar to the previous one. In this one, the licensee is SLG. We are monitoring compliance with Section 21(1)(p) and also Section 22 of the Gas Act. Chair, Table 1 of the submission provides the maximum price that was approved by NERSA, and that maximum price was 164.65 for the previous financial year. And Table 2 provides a list of all the SLG customers, and it also indicates the volumes and the prices charged by SLG to its customers. We also have invoices that we have received as evidence of compliance with these particular sections of the Gas Act. Chair, our monitoring results indicate that all the customers were charged below the maximum price of gas. And also the invoice also confirms that. With regard to compliance with Section 22 of the Gas Act, we noted that SLG provides discount to customers on the basis of 3 factors. The first one is the consumption charge, the second one is the swing score, and the third one is the NHMD charges. The consumption charge relates to the volumes of consumption per customer. The swing score relates to the load profile, and also the NHMD relates to the capacity reserved for the supply of gas to that particular customers. All those factors are provided for in Section 22 of the Gas Act, and our analysis of evidence provided for Section 22 indicates that SLG does comply with this particular section of the Gas Act. We are asking that the committee note the monitoring report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Makoda. Members, any comments, guidance, clarity from your side? By show of hands, members, if you have. If members are clarified with the presentation, Mr. Mkhize, please go ahead.
Sorry, they were saying I'm fine. Sorry.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Mkhize. Members, then I would like to then take you to the recommendations. Recommendations are on page 9, the overstamped numbers, paragraph 14. It is recommended that the Piped Gas Subcommittee notes that SLG complied with Section 21 of the Gas Act by charging customers the actual prices that are below the maximum approved by the energy regulator. And secondly, that the subcommittee must note that SLG also implemented the provisions of Section 22 for the period 1st July, supposed to be 1st July, that is an error, not 1st June, 1st July 2022 up until 30 June 2023. Members, by show of hands, if you agree with that. Thank you, Mr. Pukula. Thank you, Mr. Kumete. Thank you, Advocate Stole. Thank you, Ms. Mbongose. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I also support the recommendations. That was item number 9 of the agenda, members. Now we are on item number 10. Item number 10 is a report on changes in the agreed terms for the power ships and the volatility of gas prices. This is the report monitoring what is happening following the license that was granted to Car Power Ship. The team will take you through what are the developments following that license that was granted. Over to you, team from GLC, or Mr. Ngomalo, are you in the meeting?
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah,
I think
Chair.
I will.
Maybe let me do that, and I'll bring in Mr. Kotora just to deal with the aspects regarding the fluctuations in gas prices. But when it's Chair, what the report is all about is essentially just an indication of the changes that have occurred as negotiated through the agreements that were consummated or concluded with Car Power Ships. Basically, for the development of the projects that were licensed for 3 ports. That is the port of Kucha, number 1. Number 2, the port of Saldanha, as well as the port of Richards Bay. Really, what we are reflecting in the report is the extent to which these prices have been negotiated in terms of similar projects in other countries. And I think we've stated the practice in other countries, in West Africa, but also in South Africa, comparable countries, just to indicate how these projects were basically concluded in those countries, and also how the pricing elements with regard to these Car Power Ships were then dealt with, so that we can compare with what Car Power Ship is actually proposing locally. But what the report also touches on, which is also quite important, significantly, is the extent to which the fluctuations in the prices have influenced the structuring of these projects across the various countries. And we've provided an indication of the electricity prices based on these projects in these other countries. And I think members would have noticed, having read the report, that those prices range between R2.50 and R3 on average in terms of just how these projects were structured in other countries. And if you compare that to the current OCGT tariff structure, it does appear to be a little less than that, and in fact not above that. So it compares quite positively to the current OCGT structure and the normal tariff levels that we are seeing in the country at the moment. And I think we've also then provided an indication of the renegotiation around the period of the car power ships, which was initially, as members would know, 20 years, and he's now been revised, or it's been renegotiated to a lower period of 5 years. Chairperson, I think then Mr. Kotora can come in to deal with the interplay between demand and supply, and how that influences the LNG prices and the scenarios that we've sketched that in the report with regard to the future of these prices going. Thanks.
You, Mr. Kotora, may you deal with that, and also the implications of a reduced number of years on the price. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think Mr. Umalo has addressed most of the other aspects of the report. What we wanted to highlight, Chair, is that we are in constant discussions with the IPP office, and they are trying to find a way of minimizing the volatility through engagements with us. In the power ships, the JKM was used as the fuel that would be indexing whatever will be in the bid reports. So to change the bid, the prices that were bid for, they will be adjusted using the JKM. So I think in our discussions here, it's emerging that the JKM is very volatile. From the time they awarded these bids in March 2020, so in March 2021 or March 2020, the price has gone up by more than 30 times. So it means almost 3,000% increase in the gas price. So there's a big concern on that front, particularly from the IPP office, and we wanted to advise or inform the committee that we are in constant engagements, and we are trying to design or to provide a solution so that we minimize the volatility that comes with the gas price, Chair. The report itself illustrates the changes that occurred in the JKM price. It also illustrates, Chair, that there is no one gas price that can be used in the world. There is still the regional pricing of gas, with North America adopting its own price. Europe has its own prices. The Asian market has its own prices. So it's still a developing market where we don't have one competitive price or one market price for gas. And it's always going to be a risk which index you choose, depending on the geopolitical area you are going to focus on. The volatility would import to be from that particular region. So, Chair, it is not going to be an easy, or it's not, given the immaturity of the market, it's not easy to run away from the volatility that is characterized by this market. Chair, the report shows, or we have provided the theoretical aspects to this pricing of gas. We've also highlighted, Chair, the state where we are in the gas price, particularly in the LNG, where you notice that the majority of gas is consumed in country where it's produced. This is contrary, Chair, to, let's say, when you compare with the oil industry. Almost 3/4 of the gas is consumed where it's produced, whilst almost 2/3 of oil that is produced by a country is exported. So it shows that oil is a more mature sector when you compare it with gas. And there are talks, or we are in currently talks, of additional gas to power projects. So this report, Chair, is apprising the committee that there will be some volatility, and we are trying to advise and ensure there is care in the development or the choice of the indices to escalate the gas price. The other issues in the report are to illustrate these points that we've given a high-level summary of, Chair. And would like the committee to note these aspects, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, the report the submission is before you. It is just a submission where the team has been monitoring the licenses that were granted by the energy regulator, since it's now been over a year now already, and nothing has happened. So it has brought a report and also liaised with other bodies such as the IPP to find out what is happening, so that they are well aligned, and just to check some of the things that they would have wanted to bring to the committee, to apprise the committee. Mr. Gumede, may you please come in, sir?
Thank you, Chairperson. Just a quick question for me. For me, the first part of the report was confusing. For instance, if I look at Table 1, it talks to renegotiated deals. I mean, I would assume that would be in terms of the tariffs, electricity tariffs, and therefore it's something that I would have ordinarily thought that would have been discussed with ELR. And I am not familiar with any of the things that are there. I'm not sure if the other members might be, perhaps just myself. Even issues that are raised in paragraph 4.10. So I'm just trying to understand and to locate those and to locate the information that's presented. I know it's indicated as confidential. Where would it be coming from? For instance, I might have read on the papers around the possible renegotiations, but as far as we concerned, what we sit before us is what was originally applied for the 20 years. So I'm just trying to understand the significance of this information, and whether is there any risk associated with this information if it were to be published. Is it how official is it? But I guess what I'm just simply saying, if I can get clarity, I really got confused with this report. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gumede. Mr. Ngumalo and Mr. Kotora, can you please clarify the question asked by Mr. Gumede to indicate exactly maybe the purpose of this submission, like properly what triggered the submission, and what is intended by this submission, if you can clarify that. Mr. Mkhize, I saw your hand was up and it was down. Are you covered with the question with the issue that I'm clarifying for the team to clarify?
Yeah, I'm partly covered. I was when I looked at the report, I was having other thoughts. We've got a challenge of the renewable energy being intermittent, and then that brings into question the issue of provision of base load. And then we looked at the issue of gas, which is been by and large look at the transitional fuel in view of battery energy storage systems not being adequate in terms of bridging the gap to stop having a dark curve. And I'm looking at this and say, I was thinking of extending an invitation to say if maybe we can have this matter thrashed out and workshopped under the banner of the Capacity Building Steering Committee, looking at the viability of gas options, looking at the volatility in the market, and look at ways and means around that, and such that also the electricity colleagues will weigh in, the petroleum colleagues will also weigh in, and then we can have this report then engaged upon. Because I was even thinking that maybe we should look at it more of a governance issue. So I was still unsure of where really to position it well, such that when we come here, we come with something that is well cooked, so to say, and kind of canvassed and debated upon from an entity point of view, and not just one department or division. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ngumalo and Mr. Kotora, please can you clarify this, because from your side, from the gas side, this is the monitoring of the of what happened to the reports. I don't know, maybe you may have touched on certain things, and maybe the consultation of the electricity team, but I think it must be clarified that this is not meant to take any particular position. It is a proactive stance taken by the gas team with respect to its inspections. Once a license has been approved, even if it was going to be a construction license or operation license, then part of the plans for the gas team is to then follow up with licensees to check whether licensees are giving effect to the rights that they are granted with in terms of the Act, so that they don't just keep the licenses as gatekeepers and holding a place and not utilize the licenses for the intended purpose. So it is really within that context that the gas team then felt that because they are scanning the market, they can't sit back, and they must also go back to the licensee and find out, licensee, what have you done since we've granted you the license? Where are you in terms of your plans? And we also read these other things, and again on that, because they want to come up with information that they would have verified, they were also in touch, as they have always been, with the IPP office, just to find out from the IPP office about the things that are out there. And that is that, but it is not necessarily to take a particular position, and it was never intended to be a report that is sort of a consolidated NERSA-wide report, but it is specifically just for purposes of ensuring that the provisions of the Gas Act are adhered to, and that licenses are not going to be sterilized and not utilized for the intended purpose. Mr. Ngumalo, anything to add?
Thanks, President. I think just to add to that, and you're quite correct, really, that the essence of the report was to reflect on, the changes that have occurred since the licenses. Of the licenses. And how they are being renegotiated.
Somebody, just hold on, Mr. Ngumalo. David Mashiane, please switch off your mic. Go ahead, Mr. Ngumalo.
Thanks, Chair. I think, as I was saying, that was the essence of the report, but the information that has been secured with regard to the the figures and the data that is used in the report really came mainly from the IPP office and from consultation that we had with the licensee, basically where we were following up to indicate that since they were licensed, they must just provide an update of where they are with regard to progress made in the licenses that were issued, so that we know how far they are towards actually, concluding the projects that were licensed. But I think if members maybe would prefer us to also engage in this other aspect with regard to maybe just having the report then consulted at a particular level in terms of maybe just further engagements with our colleagues in electricity as well as in the petroleum space. We're quite happy to do that, Chairperson, as part of the the platform that is available already within NESA. But that was not initially the intention. But I think, as you correctly said, the intention was really to reflect and to appraise members about the progress that has been made, in as far as those projects has been made, and what the likely scenario is going to be. With regard to the prices of LNG going forward for the next 5 years to 6 years, starting from 2023 to 2029, especially since we know that the gas resources are going to be depleted, according to information that has been provided, effective from 2029. But that was the essence of the report, and that was the purpose behind the report. And basically, it was then to appraise members about those developments and the changes that have occurred, so that members can basically, be aware of that. But I think, Chairperson, as we've said, we're quite happy to also follow the other route, where the report then is shared with our colleagues in the other divisions, with regard to just getting inputs on specific areas in relation to issues.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Gumede, followed by Mr. Mkhize.
Thank you, Chairperson. First, just to indicate that I am not. I'm actually. I think it's great that the team is following up on the licenses issued. And in fact, all divisions are supposed to be doing the same. However, for me, the table 1 is very definitive. And even worse, so the issue there is to the extent to which it talks to renegotiated deals. It's one thing if it's indicating those could be indicative prices if in terms of if they come across as indicative prices. At this stage, this comes as definitive, and also it talks to a renegotiated deal, which, as far as I know, it may have been something that's happening within the IPP office. But as far as NESA on the electricity side, we have not been in receipt of any of this. And yes, it's good that the gas team would have been proactive and brought in this information if it's there. But I think I would be very careful to include. It's one thing to then limit the scope of this report to what the associated gas price is and the impact, and it is seen as it's something that it's a theoretical construct. But that table 1 is very definitive for me, and it is worrying, Chair, that if it is correct, it's great. However, then one would then ask, why has the electricity team not actually themselves gotten such information from the IPP office? But I'm not sure whether, if it was information shared in confidence with the gas team, I do not believe that it's something that needs to be published. So I'm not sure whether my concern, Chair, is coming across.
Thank you, Mr. Gumede. Your concern is well noted, and I think it's a valid point when it comes to that table and that information. And I think maybe they probably just gone beyond, maybe just in trying to clarify, but also the point that you are making, that it was something that was clarified maybe in confidence. It should not have been made into the report or came into the report. That is noted, and maybe that's what we can can then indicate that some of the prices must be indicative, and just to show the impact of any proposed changes that may happen. What are the likely implications if those changes that are being proposed? I think that was the intention, and then they may just exclude certain information that may give wrong impressions. Thank you for that guidance in terms of what is contained in the report. Mr. Mkhize?
Thanks for the clarification. I think Mr. Numalo and the team could help if you could then be very clear upfront with the scope. And I think Lars, Mr. Mashiane, and them can then come in and assist in terms of having caveats in terms of these reports so that they are understood. But I will still hold the view that that other bigger debate, I think, or discourse, there is space for it in an entity like ours, looking at the developments. I think, but maybe one would, just with your permission, Chair, just talk a bit on the under governance issues in this regard. So defining the scope and putting caveats in place helps for one to read a report in its proper context. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Members, for purposes of this report and the suggestions that Mr. Gumede made have already accepted, the team will make sure that those tables that seem to suggest like actual prices, what will definitely happen, that will be adjusted, and also certain information that may actually compromise what is out there or being negotiated, and that information will actually be revised or excluded from the report, but it will just be gas prices as well as the implications that are likely to happen if there are changes. So that is taken. Mr. Mkhize, the issue of the bigger picture, I think when now it is the NERSA-wide, I think that initiative, maybe GES may take the initiative if the members suggest that GES take that initiative for the second round of the reports, so that maybe then the electricity team and the gas team, with regards to those licenses, what is happening, what will be the implications for the NERSA-wide, electricity, gas, and I think that can be something that can be done for the second round of the report. And once there are other developments as well as to what will actually happen. Members, are you happy with that proposal in terms of the way forward on this report? Let me ask the members. Mr. Bugula, are you happy with the proposal that I've made going forward?
Thank you, Chair. I'm fine. I'm okay with it. I think if the other members are aligned, I'm aligned.
Thank you. Ms. Mbongose?
Chairperson, I am happy. I think it will help if we can engage further with the report by other teams from other divisions. So it will be beneficial all around. Thank you.
Thank you. Advocate Stole?
Chairperson, I'm also happy, but I would like to propose that maybe we have the report discussed in our closed session or governance session first before we.
But this particular report, I think we've taken more than 15 minutes. The report must be taken out of this, or are there specific issues that we must take to the governance?
No, Chairperson. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Are you saying today this report, Chairperson, Ms. Advocate Stole, or the future report?
I was referring to the future report, okay. Chairperson, to say that it should be submitted in the closed session so that we engage on it thoroughly. Whatever needs to go to the public can be agreed in that particular closed session. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gumede? Mr. Gumede, the way I summarized the recommendations and the way forward, are you in agreement?
Chair, I'm actually happy with it. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Mkhize?
I'm happy with it. In this report, we also just need to highlight areas that are confidential still. We need to stick to our normal practice. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mkhize. All right, thank you very much, members. Then I would like to take you to the recommendations. The members are requested to note this report subject to the areas where the members are concerned, so that those areas are then rephrased, and some of them are actually excluded, especially where we need to indicate that these are indicative, but some matters that are not conclusive must just be removed, and also make sure that confidential information is protected. And that is then taking us to paragraph 13. It is recommended that the subcommittee note the report on changes in the car powership, as well as the volatility of gas prices, not the agreed terms. There are no agreed terms. The potential changes. Members, by show of hands, if you agree with that. Thank you, Mr. Gumede. Thank you, Mr. Pukula. Thank you, Ms. Mbongose. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Advocate Stole, and I also support. Thank you. We're now moving on to the last report under regulatory matters, and that is the volume balance report for the month of July 2023.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, on this one, Chair, as indicated in the last meeting, that the yearly volume balance expectations to the South African market in terms of the gas transportation agreement is 160.8 million gigajoules per annum. Now, if you factor in gas volumes from the other two importers, Chair, then it goes to 163.3 million gigajoules. So meaning that on monthly basis, our expectation is 13.6 million gigajoules. That is, on monthly basis of gas to the South African market. So in the month of July, Sasol Gas delivered 14.5 million gigajoules. So meaning that the volumes sent to the South African market are above the expected minimum volumes as per all the agreements, Chair. And the volume balance variance is minus 1.53, Chair, which is not within the agreed limits of 1%, Chair. And in that, Chair, we would like to recommend that the Pipe Gas Subcommittee notes the report, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members. Here's the monthly volume balance report for the month of July. Any comments, members, areas of concerns with regards to this report? By show of hands, members, if you have any. Okay, if none, members, I don't see any hands. I would like to take members to the recommendations, and the recommendations are that the Pipe Gas Subcommittee is requested to note the monthly volume balance report for the month of July 2023. By show of hands, members, if you agree with the recommendation. And also just the amount of gas that was delivered in South Africa during that month, and also to note the variance, percentage of the variance, that it is still within the agreed and international benchmark. By show of hands, members. Thank you, Mr. Gumede. Thank you, Mr. Pukula, Advocate Stole, Ms. Mbongose, Mr. Mkhize. I also support. Members, we have now come to the end of the open session of our meeting. And I would like to thank the members of the public that were following the proceedings of this meeting. We have now come to an end of the open part of our meeting, and therefore we would like to stop the live streaming. And thank you for following our activities at NERSA and showing interest in the business that we do at NERSA. We hope that we are making a difference in terms of regulating the markets that we are required to regulate. Thank you very much.